Good morning, Mr. Pally here. Today we're going to go over an introduction to experimental design. Using these notes, you're going to be able to complete both a classwork grade assignment, it's 10 points, it's going to be the application problem, and then an exit ticket question that's a 10-point assessment grade. So with these notes, you'll be able to complete both of those assignments. So the first part of the notes, the first part of our experimental design is what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is a tentative answer to a question. It's based on your prior knowledge and what your observations that you have already made about this topic or scientific experiment. It's also an educated guess. So that's the first part of the notes, is asking you what is a hypothesis. So you can write your answer there. You don't have to copy the answer on the slide, but just summarize it in your own words. I'm going to write that it's an educated guess about what will happen during the experiment. What will happen during the experiment? Okay, so we're going to look at a specific example here. So in our model experiment, we're going to have a student growing 4 different types of plants. And what we're going to be changing is the amount of fertilizer in each plant. This first plant has 0 drops. This second plant has 2 drops. The third plant has 4 drops. The fourth plant has 6 drops. So we're going to use this model sentence to help us write out our hypothesis. So it's I hypothesize that blank drops of fertilizer results in the fastest growth. So fill that in with whichever spot you think, whatever amount of fertilizer you think will actually have the fastest growth. So use your prior knowledge about how fertilizer helps plants grow and what might happen if you put too much fertilizer. So I'm going to put my hypothesis in this box here, my answer, filling in the sentence. I hypothesize that 4 drops of fertilizer will result in the fastest growth. Feel free to write your own answer, what you think. Okay, so now we have our hypothesis. The next thing we need to do is identify the variables in our experiment. So the variable is anything that can change during the course of your experiment. Anything that can change during the course of your experiment. There's 3 types of variables. The independent variable is what you change. So think of it starting with I, it's what I do, what I'm going to change during the experiment. So, what I change. The dependent variable is what you're going to measure. The dependent variable is the thing you're observing, the outcome you're observing and you're measuring. It's going to give you the results for your experiment. The dependent variable is what you can measure. And then controlled variables are what you keep the same. So these are the variables you want to really control so that the experiment can run properly. You don't want these variables changing and messing up the results. So controlled variables are what you keep the same. And the goal is, in a scientific experiment, is to observe how this independent variable, the thing you're changing, affects the dependent variable, what you're measuring, all while keeping the control variable the same. Okay. So now we're going to go into a practice example. So I want you to take a look at this situation here, our previous experiment with the plants. What is our independent variable in this situation? Well, if we go back up here, we know the independent variable is what I change. When I look at this experiment, what's changing is the amount of fertilizer in each plant. fertilizer in each plant. What is the dependent variable? Well, the dependent variable is what we're going to be measuring or the outcome. So what we're trying to check here is which fertilizer will have the fastest growth. So what we're measuring is the speed of growth. Maybe if we were to provide units, we might measure that in inches per okay. Next, we're going to talk about types of independent variables. There's two major categories of types of independent variables. There's numerical independent variables. That means what you're changing is a number or an amount of something. So for example, in this experiment up here, you've got the effect of age on the heart rate. So by adjusting the numerical age, we're going to plot these different points at a different heart rate. Okay. Sometimes you're not adjusting a number, sometimes you're adjusting or changing a category of something. So for example, in this one, how the favorite type, different people's favorite type of movie, we're going to think of different categories of movies, like comedy, action, romance. So in this situation, you're not changing a number, but you're changing a type or a category. So these are usually represented by bar graphs. So we've got two types of independent variables that usually go along the x-axis. First type is numerical. You're changing a number. And the second type is categorical. Changing a category.